I'm going to get hated for this, but I don't know when people are going to learn. The snow globe people, affluent, upper middle class, their addiction to SUVs, dogs, and fancy designer homes. These aren't genuine people. These aren't the kind of people I want to hang out with. In the last 3 years of my life, 4 years, excuse me, I've been working my butt off, and the struggle is real. You had the pandemic hit, you had financial setbacks, you've had this administration in the U.S. just killing us financially, from groceries to lumber to gas to utilities to taxes to fees for everything. Even the favorite restaurants I went to, I no longer go because they upcharge, and now they're charging a fee for takeout and a fee for this. I'm like, you can take your fees and go get them from somebody else. I'll make my dinner at home. Thank you. $250,000 to ride a toy submarine to the bottom of the Atlantic. Has anybody ever seen a picture of a real submarine? We're going to talk about it. Here, let me do what women do and read a text. Hold on, wait a minute. So let's find this. Oh, excuse me. Images. I'm dating myself. Any of you know what that is? That was the first vessel to go to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, called the Trieste, something like that. When it got down to a certain depth, and the bottom of Marianas Trench is deeper than Everest is tall, somewhere around 30. Let's see if I can get this right. Hey Siri, what is the depth at the deepest spot of Marianas Trench?
One sec. The answer I found is 6.83 miles.
So it's showing minus 36,000 feet from sea level. I thought it was 30. The Titanic is somewhere. Hey Siri, what is the ocean depth where the Titanic sits?
One moment. Still on it.
You're taking too long. How many feet down in the ocean is the Titanic wreck? 12,600 feet. So you're going to go down there and you're going to get into something that is no nonsense, solid. This submersible that the people got into was operated by a joystick that the passengers could operate. Life has changed a lot. Life has changed a lot since we all came into this world. I was born in the 60s. Photos of missing Titanic submersible. A French diver and a Pakistani father and son are among the missing. The submersible, which last pinged in a location close to the Titanic wreck, was designed with life support to sustain 5 crew members for 96 hours. We've got a guy from Shazda and Sulman Dawood, Vice President of Angro Corporation Limited, a sprawling business headquartered in Karachi, Pakistan. Sulaiman Dawood and his son is his son, the family said in a statement. They're both British citizens. Paul Henry is a Titanic researcher. And his wife lives in the U.S. Stockton Rush, the CEO of OceanGate, is also on board. I want to be careful about what I say. And I'm going to get myself in trouble with even people who listen to me, but personally, I understand that we have the freedom to spend our money as we please. I don't believe in socialism, but I struggle with people that got $250,000 to throw down the toilet for a submarine ride. Does that bother anybody? I don't want to sound like I'm calloused, but do you notice the world is focused on that? People struggle, they go to work, they pay their bills. The media doesn't care. But a CEO and people that paid $250,000, 5 people got missing. Oh no. Who cares? Why? Why are we supposed to mourn that, and how sad? Tell me. There's people that struggle to make it every day. They work hard. They'll never be able to throw $250,000 at anything. They can't even afford a mortgage of $250,000 for a house. And I've said this about CEOs in corporate world. I don't like them. I don't care if they're in Pakistan. I don't care if they're in America. CEO people, you playing with the ocean? the Titanic has probably just claimed 5 more victims. It makes me sick that people can throw $250,000, and I guess they've been doing this, to go down and see the wreck. What a waste of money. You can see the photos. You can see Robert Ballard and all the expeditions down there that have taken tons of pictures. And to these people, it's like a ride on a Ferris wheel or a roller coaster. This is fun, $250,000. And they get in this submersible, which can be operated with a little joystick, and they're making all this new stuff that makes life look easy. But let me tell you something. I've noticed something with all these computers in the cars, in the pickups. They're having problems. All this technology, the Trieste was old school. All that stuff you saw, that's not the actual sub. The submersible, the thing that the men were in was a bathysphere, a round giant cannonball with a sealed lid and a double porthole. And as they're getting deeper down, I think they got it at like 25,000 feet, and they heard this crack. This is when they did their first dive down to Marianas Trench, and they kept going. Fortunately, the second one didn't crack. But if the second one had cracked, if they'd given away, those men would have been gone. Now, I don't know what happened. I can only speculate. Did the thing implode? I don't know. Did they get too close to the ship? Did they try to zero in and get caught on a piece of wreckage? You got all these successful people on there, corporate people, successful, well-known, and they fucked up. And let me tell you, if that thing implodes, there's a chance we'll never find it. But they said it last pinged at the wreck site. I love the Titanic. I made it in the school yearbook in California for Titanic historian. This was years before it was located on the seafloor. I watched the movie Raise the Titanic, a box office failure, but I love the part when the Titanic starts coming to the surface. It's beyond beautiful. And we had all hoped. Apple makes baby toy phones. If you don't get the password in, it goes and the thing shakes and vibrates. I'm like, really? I'm a grown man and it does that? That's something you give to a kid, baby. Let's see if we can go here. The Titanic is fascinating. The whole story is fascinating. It's captured the hearts of people for decades now. I hate commercials. They should be banned. No, I'm sorry. But this shit is cool. This was a box office failure. It was based off the book by Clive Cussler, one of his first books. I read that author religiously. I go to the thrift stores and Goodwill and I scour the shelves until I can find more that I haven't read. He's an awesome adventure, ocean, shippy stuff. When I first saw that back in 83, 82, 83, I have to tell you, I got emotional. Because we all thought it looked like that on the ocean floor. We thought the Titanic, I have to turn off the sound because there's music and YouTube will just flag it away. But we thought it had settled down on the ocean floor like a leaf. We didn't know it broke in half and decks collapsed downward and all that. But this is pretty good. They built a model. I don't know where the model ended up, but it was small. It wasn't big like Cameron's movie, but they did the special effects so dang well on it. It looks like the real thing coming up out of the water. It was just tremendous. And that ship to this day sails on in the hearts and minds of people on a global level. I find it interesting that a Pakistani and his son went down. I mean, the Middle East, the what they consider Asia. The Titanic has cast a spell on many of us. And it's sad. I mean, don't get me wrong. The guys, I'm thinking they're dead. I mean, I think it's over, man. But they got 96 hours if the sub is functioning properly. But at that depth, they can't just get down there and hook a cable to it and yank her up. I mean, this is a serious problem. There's no ships close enough to get out there in time to pull this thing up if they can find it. Man, a search is underway. I mean, if they're not near the Titanic wreck, if they drifted away from it and it implodes, do you know how hard it was to find this ship? I mean, we're all impressed with that. Now, the reason that second funnel's missing is because it collapsed when it was sinking that night. It crashed down on the deck and smushed a bunch of people. But yeah, it was a pretty good movie. It was pretty awesome. And I remember when I first saw that, I was getting all choked up. And my friend was sitting there giving me a hard time. I'm like, shut up, Jimmy. He says, really get into that thing. I said, just leave me alone. The Titanic is cool stuff. It should teach us all a lesson about overconfidence. It should teach us all that technology is a wonderful thing, but don't put your trust in it. We got GPS now. The ancient mariners in the Titanic, they had chart rooms and compasses. They didn't just look at a digital readout and go, oh, we're right here. By the same token, you can make new submarines. You can operate it with a joystick. You can even make it sound like the beginning of Pac-Man. Okay? But we're talking about pressure. What is the pressure at 12,000 feet underwater? Let's see if we can find out. How do I get out of this screen? Thank you. Apple phones are not easy to use. What is the pressure at 12,000 feet under sea? Okay, that's not what you cut me off. What is the pressure of water at 12,000 feet under the ocean? Wow, this is absolute fine print. Water pressures in the deep is one of the many phenomena researchers must contend with when exploring deep sea sites. The ocean is deep, and we shaved off all the continents and filled the trenches in the oceans with the earth from the continents. The entire globe would be covered with water about 2 miles in depth. The average ocean depth is 12,560 feet. The greatest ocean depth is 36,200 feet. One atmosphere is equal to the weight of the Earth's atmosphere at sea level. Let's see, the pressure increases about 1 atmosphere for every 10 meters of water depth. At a depth of 5,000 meters, so that's what, 15,000 feet? "500 atmospheres are 500 times greater than the pressure at sea level." That's a lot of pressure. They were talking about testing procedures and all this. The average scuba diver becomes incapacitated at 250 feet of depth. This is a far cry from the 11,500 foot depth at which deep sea fishes have been found. What is the water pressure at the Titanic wreck site? On the seabed, 12,500 feet underwater. Titanic and everything around endures pressures of around, what is this? 40 MPa. What is that? That doesn't answer my question. That does not answer. What is MPa? No, that's wrong. See if we can find it. I have to take my glasses off because the pressure at the bottom of the Atlantic is very heavy, something like several tons per inch. See, and somebody asked a dumb question. If that water pressure down there would kill a person, why didn't it just destroy all the artifacts in Titanic, or why didn't it destroy Titanic itself? Hydrostatic equilibrium. You're not going to destroy a cup and a saucer because it doesn't have air in it. When a ship sinks, and you look at the Titanic wreck, and nobody has offered this. I haven't heard anybody say this is my theory, and there's all kinds of theories. When I read a lot of the accounts of the Titanic, I never heard in a lot of them, like Walter Lord of Night to Remember, anything about the ship breaking in half. There were some passengers that claimed it broke in half, but out of 1,500 rescued, most of them did not say that. They said the ship tilted up, the stern was out of the water, and it went down like a swan. Now, there was a lot of distress that night, but we know it broke up. The Mackay Bennett was a ship that came out from, I believe, Nova Scotia or Newfoundland, and came out to rescue bodies floating in the water. When they came out to the area where she had sunk and the surrounding area, they found all kinds of stuff floating, not just bodies. They found pieces of decking. They found a newel post from a staircase, possibly the grand staircase. Now, how the heck did that get there? Obviously, that should have told us back in 1912 the ship broke apart, if not on the surface. And there's a lot of people that today they claim it broke up at the surface. In James Cameron movie, you see it breaking and all the dramatic effect. I'm not sure if that's what happened, but it broke somewhere. My thought is it probably broke below the water line and nobody saw it happen. My thing is the stern, because they said the stern suddenly settled a little bit, which meant to me that the front bow section had torn off of it well underwater. And when it let loose, the stern settled back a little bit because the weight of the ship was pulling it down. You look at the stern section of the Titanic and it doesn't make sense. It looks like Manhattan after it was bombed. You've got something called spalling. It's when you got the curvature of the stern of the Titanic. It had what was called a counter stern. And the hull plating on the stern of the ship, from the deck down, it comes down and goes under. The hull plating splayed out like this. The decks on the stern were flipped over on themselves. Okay, number one, you got to understand all that teak wood, which is real thick planks, and the steel, which is about that thick on an ocean liner. The Queen Mary's plates were about that thick. And all that went and folded over on itself like, a runner rug that you'd have in the hall. You're just like, how in the heck did that happen? The Titanic was not going through the water fast enough to cause that steel to rip and open like a can. There's no way. The whole the Titanic sinking, how fast did it move through the water? I don't know. To me, there's no way to really calculate that. And what needs to be said is there was air trapped in that stern. The stern reached a point where there was a greater amount of water in it to drag it down. And as it went down, And as it got deeper, I think what happened is inner rooms and inner stern section just imploded and did weird stuff. The reason that objects on the seafloor and the Titanic itself is because you have water to equalize the pressure exerted on it. The human body, we have lungs, we have air, and you drop us down in that, it's going to destroy us. And what's amazing is there's living things at the bottom of Mariana's Trench. So what does this have to do with a sub? Things can go wrong. And people pay $250,000, I can guarantee you. And this is my take. I could be wrong. But they're done. Those guys are done. And I think that will probably systematically end any further little sightseeing joyrides to the bottom of the wreck. You can pay $250,000 to take your life. Be a lot easier and cheaper ways to do it. My take on it is, excuse me, I worked all day, so I'm tired. And I was asked by a friend to comment on this. I wasn't planning on coming on YouTube, but I'm a Titanic buff, and it's sad. But at the same time, you go into something like that, it's not like a trip to the grocery store. You're talking about going to 12,500 feet. You're talking about inky dark blackness. You're talking about a fabled wreck that its bow still rises majestically from the seafloor, even though it's plowed into the muck. That ship is a testimony. You don't play with the ocean. And you don't play with joystick subs. And $250,000 and a CEO and a successful leader of a big corporation doesn't amount to a hill of beans. The ocean doesn't care about any of that at all.